We have the power to protect and conserve water, provide food and habitat for wildlife and pollinators, reduce our carbon footprints, feed the hungry, reduce obesity and diabetes, and increase community involvement just by doing one thing differently. And the answer lies in our own backyards, and perhaps front yards too. Welcome to my yard. Although early spring in Minnesota generally isn't the showiest time to give a garden tour, I'd like to invite you anyhow because I'd like to demonstrate how just adjusting a few small practices can make a big difference in helping the environment. Let's start with my rain garden. My rain garden acts kind of like a giant kidney as it filters the dirty stormwater runoff from the surrounding streets and driveways. And check this out. If there were 3 more rain gardens on my street, there would be basically no stormwater pollution leaving my street. What would the world look like if everyone just kept the street in front of their own house clean and handled their own stormwater runoff? We'd be light years ahead in water quality. The next thing I want to show you is how we leave the leaves over winter. In the spring, around the time the dandelions start to bloom, I uncover my plants and make sure they aren't matted down, but I still leave most of the leaves. I used to rake them all up and compost them and buy wood chips to use as mulch, but I changed my fall raking practice when I learned that I was essentially composting the next year's pollinators. Leaving the leaves saves me a lot of time and money, plus it supports our food system. And speaking of pollinators, here is the area I plant for pollinators. When I planned my gardens, I made sure I'd have things blooming all season long from April to October. Growing some of our own food helps us reduce our food miles or carbon footprints. It's also a fun way to get the kids outdoors. Our cold frames allow us to grow food all year long with very little effort. I just plant the seeds for various greens at the end of the summer to get them established, and this covered garden basically just acts like a refrigerator. I just pick as needed all winter long. Around the corner, we have our compost bin to recycle those food scraps into nutritious compost. I'll end this tour by showing you our no-mow lawn. Besides not needing to be mowed, another advantage is that it doesn't need to be watered after the first growing season when it's established, because the roots of this type of grass are longer and it can find its own water. Traditional lawns are kind of on life support because the grasses have shallow roots and need regular irrigation. We've also added a couple of flowering species to further help support the pollinators. So thanks for joining me on this garden tour, and I hope to see you next time.